Hey, how's it going, everybody? Expat Stacker coming to you with another discussion topic video. And in this video, we're going to be talking about political economy, currency, and gold. And when you hear and see the word politics, you might get nervous. You might be like, oh man, this guy's about to talk crazy, but it's not what you're thinking, okay? We're going to be talking about three countries today. And we're just going to take a look at how real money, currency, and politics all come together, which could affect individuals. Because as much as politics may be an uncomfortable subject for some people, I personally don't mind it, even when people have extremely different views than I do. I do not define a person or myself by my political views, so I do not get really offended. I may agree or I may disagree, but I don't mind, and I don't mind when people challenge my beliefs. Now, with that said, I treat people with respect, and I want to be treated with respect as well. So, if someone is being disrespectful, then that's just the end of the conversation, because in that by that time I can tell that the person's not really interested in learning anything or exchanging any ideas or anything. It's not constructive, so there's no reason to continue. But this shouldn't be that type of video. This is about, like I said, governments around the world and gold and currency, and how different systems and reactions and everything have taken place. And hopefully, because politics is a reality, we cannot just stick our head in the sand and hope that it goes away or doesn't affect us. We at least need to be attuned to what's going on and have our thumb on the pulse, so we can predict how it may affect us. Because if you stick your head in the sand, you might literally lose your head. Take a look at history. Take a look at France. Okay, that happens. So let's start with the country that I'm currently in. In the late 90s, there was a financial crisis in which really changed this country a lot. I mean, there's so many things that you can look at before and after the crisis. They call it the Asian financial crisis. And actually, it started in Thailand in the 90s and then spread throughout Asia, but it affected South Korea as well. South Korea's economy was totally destroyed after the Korean War, which ended in 1953, and it was one of the poorest countries on earth until the 1970s, in which the time rapid development occurred. Happened under controversial government, but that's another story for another time. Anyways, by the 90s, Korea was pretty well developed industrial country. Things were going fine, but then the Asian financial crisis hit. So let's just take a look at this video here. This is part of how the South Korean government dealt with this situation. It did not attempt to lie to its citizens and say that everything is okay. They said, they pressed the red alert button. They said, our currency, the Korean won, is in serious trouble. We're having a financial crisis. We need your help. So they started a gold collection campaign. And I just want to show you, so be clear about what that means. The government didn't confiscate people's gold. They also didn't lie about what was going on. They were honest about what was going on, and they asked for the assistance of the citizens, because like many democratic countries, this is a government of, for, and by the people. And many of the Korean citizens at this time, and even today actually still, highly value their country and their government, because they know what life is like without those things. They've seen the ravages of war, so they want to take care of their country and their government. So let's take a look at what this just looked like. Okay, the citizens giving over their gold to try to support the government during the financial crisis. Just take a look. This footage comes from AP. And what you'll see is a lot of gold ornaments statues, jewelry. This is how many Koreans store their gold. Not in bullion form, at least traditionally. And also, the Korean measurements for gold and silver are not the traditional troy ounce. There's an Asian measurement, which is called the don, which is 3.75 grams. Just giving you some interesting facts while we look at this footage here. This is all gold that people have donated in order to try to help the government. I'm pretty sure that the government gave the citizens something back in return, but honestly, I don't know exactly what that is. Would be interesting to find out, but it's not like they just did this out of the goodness of their heart. They probably got a tax break or something else in return. All right, so that was very interesting to take a look at. So just a little more background information on the IMF, Asian financial crisis, and the gold collection movement. The financial crisis started in Thailand in 1997 and gripped many of East Asian economies, and the South Korean financial system was hit hard by November. Incited by fears of an economic meltdown, foreign institutions demand rapid payback for the foreign currency loans. So, sort of like a bank run, but at an institutional level, which is always how it starts, guys. So as a result, Korean financial institutions requested emergency funding from the Bank of Korea, the central bank, which ultimately exhausted foreign exchange reserves. The country was on the verge of bankruptcy. South Korea's national debt was over 150 billion US dollars. By today's standards, that's like cute, right? We're talking in the trillions these days, but back then that was a lot of money. But its foreign exchange reserves fell below 4 billion US dollars. In the end, the Korean government had to rely on a bailout package from the IMF under the condition that it accepted the IMF's harsh demands for restructuring of corporate governance and reform of the labor market. And guys, if you have not studied global economy since World War II, this is a classic story of what happens in a lot of countries. So, and it doesn't always turn out successfully, but continuing on here. Koreans were shocked to find that their country was heading towards bankruptcy. Mobilized by patriotism, they voluntarily campaigned to collect gold to help the country repay its foreign debts. This was initiated by the Central Council of the Maul Women's Club that launched the Patriotic Ring Collection movement. Maul is a kind of conservative organization which was, as I mentioned, Korea rapidly developed in the 1970s, and the government was controversial at the time. They had different local community organizations and called Maul, which means new town. So that was part of like the government's development and infrastructure program, which quite honestly, even though the government was controversial, even liberals and progressives acknowledge that the country was developed during that time. So, as I said, I'm sure there was a lot more than just patriotism that was involved with this. I'm sure that the government offered something in return. Well, I can't say I'm sure, but I believe that to be the case. So, continuing on, this national debt repayment movement was modeled after a similar public fundraising campaign organized 90 years earlier during the late Joseon period to help pay off the nation's enormous foreign debts. In January 5th, 1998, the Korean Broadcasting System, KBS, launched a national gold collection campaign in which the bank bought gold from citizens at a fixed rate. Gold thus collected was sold abroad to earn money to pay off the foreign loans. Tens of thousands of Koreans donated gold objects that carried personal and familial significance far beyond their monetary value. So these were family heirlooms, which had a lot of not only intrinsic value, but sentimental value as well. Newlyweds donated their wedding rings, while parents donated their children's birth celebration rings. I've shown birth celebration rings in previous videos of mine, so you know what that looks like. Gold medalists also gladly brought their medals, while war veterans gave their military insignias for the national cause. So gold medalists, by the way, they're talking about Olympic gold medalists. Cardinal Soo-Hwan Kim, one of the most respected figures in Korea, donated the gold cross he received for his anointment. So this is from the Catholic Church of Korea. He got a gold cross, and he also donated that. So if that doesn't show you how much people were willing to do this, then okay, 3.5 million Korean citizens nationwide participated in this campaign, and 227 tons of gold were collected. The gold earned Korea around 2.2 billion USD, which was equivalent to 10% of the IMF's bailout. The campaign ended in late April. Thanks to the campaign, Korea could successfully overcome the financial crisis sooner than anticipated. All right. In commemoration of the 70th anniversary of Korean liberation, a broadcasting station conducted a survey on what Koreans considered as their most historical moments that made them proud of their country. Many chose the gold collection campaign during the financial crisis as one such moment. International media reporting on Korea's efforts to overcome the national crisis praised self-sacrifice of South Koreans. An IMF official also commented in an interview with KBS that he had never seen anything like this in any other countries that received IMF's bailout package. Today, the National Gold Collection Campaign stands as one of the most moving shows of patriotism the world has ever known. All right, so as I said, the IMF has had this happen in several countries. So they have a lot of experience to say that they've never seen anything like this. So guys, this is one example where self-sacrifice and the government's honesty paid off, and literally helped to pay off some loans and get out of a desperate situation. And I think it's a good example because it can also show us as individuals that gold and silver can help us when we get into desperate times and situations. That's one way it can be used. Okay, now this is an example from, about the late 90s. So let's move up to jump forward to today, and let's go over to Turkey. Okay, I saw a Silver Heist video where he reads through this article. This is over on Zero Hedge. By the way, the previous video and article that I read are just reporting. Zero Hedge includes reporting but also has opinion, and in my view it tends to lean a little bit more conservative, but it's not like propaganda or anything. I like Zero Hedge, but I'm just giving that as a kind of a disclaimer. Okay, so like I said, we're going over to Turkey now, and this is modern day. So it has been a miserable 5 years for Turkish citizens who have seen their purchasing power slash by more than half, and it's only getting worse. The Turkish lira has cratered against the dollar and most developed currencies, plunging from 3 TRY per dollar to a record low 7.37 last week, after a brief and valiant attempt at imposing shadow capital control by Erdogan, who is now the de facto head of the Turkish central bank, failed miserably at the end of July, and not even a draconian hike in overnight funding rates above 1,000% last week to crush the shorts was able to prevent a plunge in the lira to new all-time lows. Okay, so first of all, let's compare this with the Korean situation. How's the government handling it? In Korea, as I mentioned in the past, they didn't have perfect spotless human rights record, but the way they handled the financial crisis was to ask for the citizens' help. What is the Turkish government doing? Erdogan is the president, and he if you're not familiar with Turkish politics, I'm not going to say he's a dictator, but he's definitely authoritarian, and he's taking over basically all different parts of the government and trying to reduce any term limits and reduce any barriers to his power and control over things. So very, very different response to this situation. The Koreans tried to handle it collectively and were successful. And right now, one man thinks he can handle it by himself, and it's not going well. So let's continue reading this. As their currency implodes in a nation that is becoming increasingly more banana with each passing day, as Erdogan solidifies his takeover of every government institution, in the process turning off any potential foreign investors. By the way, if you don't know what banana means, a banana republic is like a fake democracy where there's actually a dictator at the helm. So they're just saying that it's becoming increasingly less of a democracy and increasingly more authoritarian and like a dictatorship. So Turks are discouraged from material purchases of dollars to hedge the collapse in their native currency due to some of the strictest capital controls on the planet, which has left them with just one option. As Reuters reports, Hassan Ayan followed his wife's instructions last week, women know what's up, and took their savings to buy gold at Istanbul's Grand Bazaar as Turks scooped up bullion worth $7 billion in just a fortnight, while their currency went up in flames. All right, so what's going on? In the previous example, Koreans donated to help their government situation. In this example, Turks are rushing towards buying gold on their own, all right, for themselves, for self-preservation, not for preservation of their national currency. All right. The retired police officer, hit by vivid memories of the 2018 currency crisis, which saw the lira lose 30% of its value virtually overnight, was among those playing it safe as he queued in the city's sprawling covered market, where a screen showed the gold price rise by 1 Turkish lira in just 10 minutes. What's more, it now appears that locals are choosing gold over the dollar, perhaps because the dollar has also been tumbling against gold in recent weeks, due to the Fed's overt attempts to debase the greenback. Okay, guys, so the dollar has traditionally been seen as a safe haven asset like gold, and it is also the world's reserve currency. But what this article is basically saying is that the dollar is also getting pounded into oblivion. So people, what are they going to go for? They're going for gold, of course, right? So let's continue on reading with this. I think it is the best investment right now, so I converted my dollars to gold, the 57-year-old said. So that means he had some dollars and traded them for gold. Adding, I might withdraw my lira and buy gold with it too, but I'm scared to go to the bank right now because of coronavirus. Now, not to say that this poor guy did anything wrong, but if you had a stack of silver and gold already, then you'd be prepared for this situation, guys. So that's a lesson that we can learn from it. Well, Hassan, for people in Turkey, it is the best investment, but there is a rather high chance that Erdo pulls an FDR. So this is the opinion piece coming now. So this is like the author of the Zero Hedge article speaking now. Okay, there is a high chance that Erdogan pulls an FDR and makes it illegal for anyone in Turkey to own gold. So you and your fellow countrymen may want to have a series of unfortunate boating accidents in the coming weeks. All right, so they're talking about hiding gold or pretending to die or whatever, throwing the government off your radar. So in any case, the day after Ayan bought his gold on August 6th, the lira hit a historic low and continued to slide, lying bare. Concerns that Turkey's reserves have been depleted by market interventions, which are showing signs of fizzling out, even as the central bank and president flood the local airways with fake news about monetary stability and urge locals to keep their money in lira. Only this time it's not working. Turks have traditionally used gold for savings, and there may be as much as 5,000 tons of it hidden under mattresses, with more added after the recent buying spree. Mehmet Ali Yıldırım. Okay, I'm not going to even try that. Deputy head of an Istanbul Gold Shops Association said. And although gold has never been more expensive in either lira or dollar terms, vendors at Istanbul's Grand Bazaar said almost no one is coming to sell their gold jewelry. So the complete opposite, guys, of what happened in Korea. All right, there are only buyers. Okay, so it goes on to talk about this situation. I'm not gonna go ahead and read the whole thing. If you want to, you can go ahead and read. I just wanted to get to that part because it's just such a stark contrast with what happened in Korea. In Korea, people were donating all of their gold to try to save their country and their currency and their economy and everything they had just worked for the past 20 years to build. Here, the situation is very different in Turkey. Guys, a lot of that has to do with just culture, historical things, but also I believe strongly that the way that the political situation in the countries were and are plays into it a lot. Okay, so now we've looked at the situation in the 90s in Korea. We've looked at current day Turkey. Now let's talk about the United States. So we did hear about the dollar there, and we are going to now take a look at the current political situation in the United States. Now, once again, I am not trying to say that the Democrats or the Republicans are worse than the other. I'll just do my best to read through this, and if I have any opinion about it, I'll let you know, just so that you don't think I'm trying to, like, on the sly, convince you of anything. But anyway, let's just get into it, okay? I'm just being honest here, and my only objective here is to talk to you about how gold is going to behave in different political environments, so that way it might help you later on in life. That's my only objective. So it's not about Democrats or Republicans or whatever. I'm an independent. Okay. Rising inflation fears transform precious metals demand. All right, so this was just published a few days ago as of the creation of this video. As Joe Biden announced his VP pick, Wall Street hopes for a V-shaped economic recovery were revived by falling jobless claims and the S&P 500 inching closer to an all-time high. Precious metals markets, meanwhile, were hit with a big V for volatility. All right. This past Tuesday, gold prices plunged by more than $100 in one of the biggest down moves ever for the precious metal in terms of nominal dollars. Of course, that move came off a historically high level of more than $2,000 an ounce. As gold prices rise over time, and we see nothing to suggest that they have topped out here long term, we can expect to see more $100 daily price swings, $100 daily price swings. 100-point moves in the Dow Jones Industrials used to be rare, but are now commonplace as blue chip averages trades nearly 28,000. Just as the Nasdaq tends to be more volatile than the Dow, silver trades with greater volatility than the gold. The white metal got absolutely slammed. So they're talking about silver. The white metal got absolutely slammed on Tuesday for trading loss of more than 15%, or well over $4 an ounce. Prices turned around and surged on Thursday to recoup a big portion of those earlier losses. So like I said, guys, temporary dip in the price, not a pullback. Okay, investors will be focusing more closely on the upcoming election now that Democrats have put forth their presidential ticket, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. In response, President Trump called into Fox Business yesterday to slam both Biden and Harris as, quote, big taxers who would cause the markets to crash. Donald Trump said, she is a big taxer as Joe is a big taxer. They want to tax $4 trillion. It's going to be the biggest tax increase in history by far. It will triple up records, and they are big taxes. It's just something that won't work. you will see a depression the likes of which you have never seen. Everyone knows that if Biden gets in this market going to crash, he's going to build regulations, and he's going to tax people $4 trillion. Okay, so that's Donald Trump's assessment of the situation. There is no denying that the stock market performed well after Trump was elected. Despite selling off hard in March because of the virus lockdown hysteria that wiped out many of the president's economic achievements, Wall Street is now riding high again. But in recent weeks, gold and silver have been riding even higher. Trillions in emergency fiscal and monetary stimulus programs are raising inflation fears as they boost asset values and reinforce the need for investors to diversify into precious metals. Bullion buying has gone through the roof ever since the authorities in Washington decided to try paper over real economic declines with phony fiat stimulus. It's been quite a dramatic change in character for gold and silver markets, which had been lackluster to say the least during the first 3 years of Donald Trump's presidency. That depends. If you were buying, it was pretty good. If Trump gets reelected, bullion buying could at least temporarily experience a bit of a setback. The types of investors who are most apt to buy gold and silver coins to protect themselves from risks also tend to perceive political risks as being lower during Republican administrations. Okay, that's a total opinion right there. I just want to point that out. I'm not going to share my own thoughts about that, but that is an opinion which is not backed up by any facts. So I just wanted to point that out. As we've seen, though, risks to the economy and the value of the US dollar have accelerated dramatically despite Trump remaining in the White House. Gold has hit record high under Trump, and we don't see a Trump win in November, killing the longer-term gold bull market. In fact, neither Trump nor Biden have any workable plans to close the exploding budget deficit or stop the Federal Reserve from embarking on deliberate campaign to raise inflation rates. So think about that, guys. Listen, just let me read that one more time. Neither Trump or Biden have any power to stop the Federal Reserve. That's what this article is saying here. So think about that. Do you think that's right? This is supposed to be a government of, for, and by the people, and they just said that the most powerful person on earth, no matter who it is, doesn't have any power to stop the Fed. So to me, that's insane, but that's my opinion. All right, let's continue on. Inflation is the only bipartisan path forward in Washington. Okay. Despite their public bickering over taxes and handout programs, both Republicans and Democrats, with a few rare exceptions, are in fundamental agreement when it comes to monetary policy. The election results won't change the Fed's current course of pursuing negative real interest rates and unlimited QE. In this environment, investors would be wise to keep their focus on the big picture of currency depreciation and its ramifications rather than politics. All right. Elections have consequences, of course, but we don't foresee the end of precious metals bull market being one of them. So basically, guys, it doesn't matter if Trump or Biden wins in terms of stacking, right? Because both of them are going to continue on with this deliberate campaign to just print endless money. Their monetary policy basically is going to be the same. That's what this is saying here. So, I think that in order to try to gain a foothold, they're both going to be focusing on the culture war stuff, Now, the quote that they pulled from the Fox Business was about taxes, so that wasn't a culture war thing, so maybe I'm wrong about that. But what this article is encouraging people to do, because I'm not on Facebook, I'm not on Twitter or any of those things, but from what I can see, everybody's always constantly at each other's throats. And in the United States and all around the world, there are protests and demonstrations, and people are really unhappy and fed up with things right now. So, guys, it can turn out many different ways, The Zero Hedge article talks about Erdogan trying to pull an FDR and confiscate everyone's gold. With the Korean example, we saw a totally different possible turnout. So what I'm trying to tell you guys is things are really unstable right now. And it seems like both Trump and Biden are going to be more or less pursuing the same fiscal policy in terms of raising taxes or lowering taxes. It's a zero-sum game, guys. Public debt is the same as private savings. So if we have more public debt, it's going to wipe out your private savings. But it depends on what those private savings are held within. Is it held within real money? Or is it held within Turkish lira or Korean won or the US dollar? All right, that's what I want you guys to think about. So when it comes to politics, try to be able to sort through the talking points and the culture war stuff. Look, for me personally, I'm very open with the cultural stuff. If you want to live your life a certain way, if you want to believe in a certain religion, if you want to have romance with the same gender or different gender, or you want to change your gender or whatever, I don't really care about any of that stuff. You can live your life, I'll live my life. Just don't try to tell me what words I have to use or whatever stuff like that. I'm not trying to offend you. I'm not trying to disrespect you. If I say something that you feel is disrespectful, well, I didn't mean to, but please don't try to tell me what to say. And that's it. That's it. That's as far as it goes. Otherwise, my politics is my business, right? Who I vote for and stuff like that. That's all my business. And you have yours. If you're my friend, maybe we can talk about it. I don't mind having my ideas challenged and discussing things. That's how we learn stuff, guys. I always talk about how collective wisdom is more powerful than any individual wisdom. And I think we're seeing that. We see that in these examples. The Korean example, everyone came together collectively and dealt with the situation. The Turkish example, one man thinks he can control everything and it's not going well, right? So in terms of political discussions and stuff like that, I totally don't mind. If you're interested and curious, sure, I'll say it, but I'm not going to just put it out there and tell you guys, what I think and what I think you should believe and stuff like that. So I just want to reiterate that, because the political discussions these days are totally out of whack. Everybody gets too offended and stuff like that. I don't really care about your identity, your ethnicity or your religion or your gender or your sexuality or any of those things. I don't really care about that, as I'm not going to. I mean, it's part of who you are as an individual, so it's important. But I'm not going to just completely judge you based off of only those things, because I think that's ignorant. Everybody is an individual, and every single individual has value. That's how I see other people. And that's why I'm trying to help you guys with this discussion here, to talk about how to look at politics, how to look at it in a way that can help you prepare and not get your head taken off or get your gold confiscated or get clobbered. All right. So guys, I hope that these 3 examples was helpful. I know it's a bit of a long video, but I think it could really help a lot of people. And also, I'm going to be making another video more generally about political economy and how it relates to precious metals. I made a video in the past called Restoring Your Economic Sovereignty with Silver and Gold, and I'm going to make a part 2 to that. And each part is going to be looking at restoring your economic sovereignty from a different lens. So the first one that I'm going to be taking a look at with is political economy. So I kind of wanted to lay the groundwork a little bit, because whenever you say the P word, sometimes people get really uptight about it. But relax, okay? This is not the typical conversation that you used to, where it's blue team against red team. All right. So guys, leave your thoughts below on the Korean example, the Turkish example, and what you think about the current situation in the US. As I said, please keep it respectful. All right. I respect your opinion, you respect mine, and I want you to respect people who maybe have a different opinion than yours in the comments section. All right. I would really appreciate that. Okay guys, this is Expat Stacker, and I'll catch you on the flip side.